You're lying awake at 2 a.m. Not because anything is wrong. Your job is stable. Your account has more zeros in it than it did 5 years ago. But you're doing the thing you've done since you were a kid, running numbers in your head. Rent, groceries, that one subscription you forgot to cancel. You open your banking app for the 4th time today, even though nothing has changed since the last time you checked 20 minutes ago. You tell yourself this is just being responsible, but somewhere underneath that explanation, there's a tighter feeling, a familiar one. And if you trace it back far enough, it doesn't start in your adult life at all. It starts at a kitchen table when you were 7. Maybe it wasn't your kitchen table. Maybe it was the back seat of a car, pretending to be asleep while your parents argued in low, sharp voices about a bill that hadn't been paid. Maybe it was standing next to your mother at a checkout counter, watching her quietly put something back on the shelf because the total came out higher than she expected, and catching just for a second the look on her face before she rearranged it into a smile for you. You didn't understand interest rates or overdraft fees back then. You didn't need to. Kids don't learn about money from spreadsheets. They learn about money from tone, from the tension in a room, from which conversations got whispered behind closed doors, from whether asking for something, a school trip, a pair of shoes, a toy every other kid already had, was met with an easy yes, a guilty no, or silence that felt worse than either. That moment, whatever version of it belonged to you, didn't just teach you a fact about your family's finances. It taught you a rule about the world, a rule you never consciously agreed to, but one you've been obeying ever since. Psychologists have a name for this. Financial psychologist Brad Klontz describes these unconscious beliefs as money scripts, deeply held assumptions about money, many of which begin forming in early childhood, and then run quietly in the background for the rest of your life, shaping decisions you think you're making freely. Here's what makes them so hard to catch. A money script doesn't feel like a belief, it feels like a fact. If you grew up watching money disappear unpredictably, your script might be money is never safe no matter how much you have. If you watched a parent equate spending with love, your script might be the way I show people I care is by paying for things, even when I can't afford to. If asking for anything felt shameful, your script might be needing money means something is wrong with you. None of these thoughts show up wearing a label. They just show up as behavior. As the friend who earns well but panics every time a bill arrives. As the person who can't enjoy a raise because some part of them is already bracing for it to be taken away. As the sibling who overspends on birthdays and holidays, not out of carelessness, but because generosity is the only love language that was ever available in that house. You are not broken for having one of these scripts. You are, in a very literal sense, running code that was installed before you were old enough to read. This is where it gets uncomfortable, because the script doesn't stay in childhood. It follows you into rooms where it doesn't belong. It shows up when you get a bonus, and immediately feel the urge to spend it before it can disappear. Because on some level, money has never felt like something that stays. It shows up when you avoid opening a bill, not out of laziness, but because your body still remembers what bad news about money used to feel like. It shows up when you're doing well, genuinely well, and yet you can't shake the sense that it's temporary, that the other shoe is somewhere, waiting. And here's the part almost no one talks about. Sometimes the pattern isn't fear. Sometimes it's self-sabotage disguised as bad luck. People who grow up with financial instability don't all respond the same way. Some become people who can't hold on to success at all, who find a way again and again to end up back at zero, because zero is the only financial state that ever felt familiar, not comfortable, just familiar. And familiar to a nervous system that learned survival young can feel safer than the unknown territory of actually having enough. You were never taught this. No one sits a child down and says, here is how you will relate to money for the next 30 years. It was absorbed, not chosen. But absorbed is not the same as permanent. The moment you can name a pattern is the moment it stops being invisible. That checking your balance at 2 a.m. habit isn't really about the number in your account. It's a 7-year-old part of you, still checking if it's safe. That guilt you feel spending on yourself isn't really about the purchase. It's an old rule that said needing things was dangerous. You don't have to keep obeying a rule you never agreed to. You can look at it directly, maybe for the first time, and ask a simple question: is this actually true right now? Or is this just old? That question doesn't fix everything overnight, but it's the first moment the pattern loses some of its grip. Because a rule you can see is a rule you can finally choose about, instead of one that just quietly runs you. So, you're lying awake again. 2 a.m. Account balance already checked twice. But this time, instead of running the numbers, you notice the feeling underneath them. And for the first time, you recognize it for what it actually is. Not a warning about your finances today. An echo of a kitchen table, a long time ago, finally being heard.